Good morning, everybody. And today I want to welcome you to the Cognitive Edge. I want to talk about something that is affecting schools across the entire country, but it does not always get discussed in the right way. We talk a lot about attendance, we talk a lot about test scores, we talk a lot about learning loss, academic recovery, and student performance. Those things matter, but underneath all of those issues is a deeper question. Do students really feel like they belong? That is what I call the belonging gap. The belonging gap happens when students are enrolled in school, but they do not feel connected to school. They may walk through the doors every day, sit in class, complete assignments, and move um, from period to period, but emotionally, they feel invisible. They may feel disconnected. They may feel like school is something being done to them, not something they're truly part of. And when students feel that way, we should not be surprised when they disengage. Um, Too often, schools respond to disengagement with more rules, more warnings, more consequences, and even uh, attendance letters. So now it really is the time that structure matters. Expectations matter, accountability matters, but those things alone do not create belonging. A student does not feel connected to school because they receive another reminder about being absent. A student feels connected when an adult notices they are missing. A student feels connected when a teacher says, I'm glad you're here today. A student feels connected when a librarian remembers what kind of books that they like. A student feels connected when a counselor or coach or an aide or an administrator or staff member takes the time to see them as more than a name on a roster than is the human side of education. We cannot separate learning from belonging. Students learn better ultimately when they feel safe. They participate more when they feel respected. They take more academic risk when they know someone believes in them. Think about it. Most of us can remember at least one adult from school who made us feel seen. Maybe it was a teacher who pushed us, or it was a librarian who listened. Maybe it was a coach or a counselor or a secretary or a principal who treated us like we mattered. These relationships, pardon me, stay with us because they are powerful. That is why the future of education cannot only be about better programs, better software, better assessments, or better policy. It has to be about better connections. Students need classrooms where their voices matter. They need libraries where curiosity is welcome. They need school where adults work together to notice who's struggling before that student disappears into the background. The belonging gap is not only solved by one assembly, one poster, or one school-wide slogan. Let's be honest, a poster says you belong here. Does not does not mean much ultimately if the student feels ignored the minute that they walk into the building. Belonging has to be built into the daily life of the school. It happens in the hallway greetings, it happens in small check ins, it happens really when students are invited into meaningful conversation. It happens when schools really listen to families, when students see themselves reflected in the curriculum, in the library, in leadership opportunities, in the culture of the building. This is not soft work. This is serious work because when students do not feel connected, attendance drops, motivation drops, confidence drops, behavior problems often increase, and eventually school becomes a place where they avoid instead of a place where they grow. So maybe the question should not be how do we get students to come to school? Maybe the better question is, how do we make school a place students want to come back to? That question changes everything. It moves us from compliance to connection. It moves us from blaming students to understanding students. It moves us from simply tracking attendance to building relationships. The belonging gap reminds us that students are not data points, they're people. They have stories, pressure, fears, strengths, and hopes. And every student deserves to feel that there is a place for them in the school, the community. If we want students to show up, we have to stop first for them and care really about learning. Um, we really have to want them to come to school to see that there has been some improvement. But we must remember this simply, this is simply the truth. Students not fully learn in places where they feel invisible. They learn in places where they feel known, valued, and connected. That is the work ahead. Before students can invest in school, they ultimately have to believe in school is invested in them. That's my message for today. And hopefully, everybody can feel this and know that um, ultimately, that students really need this position to feel invested within the school, and they need to know that others being teachers and adults and so forth, care about them. A very short, quick story. When I was a librarian, I used to do like a roving reference, and ultimately, I would find students sitting in different places in the library, period after period. So eventually, I would approach the student very calmly and nicely and say, "Hey, is everything okay? I've seen you here from period to period with your head down." And the student then opens up, and you see a completely different person with a smile, and you can talk to them. And then ultimately, you can get them to the right help so they are no longer just sitting there um, collecting time and doing nothing. This is just a little piece of my own idea. So hopefully, everybody is liking the videos, and the cognitive edge is bringing you some insight, innovation, and impact. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye bye.